I have to keep my sound up.
Hi, and
Hello,
welcome to
everybody.
Soul Sisters 117.
Wow.
Okay, so hope and pray we're all well at this time. We'll begin with our Rhema for today, which is in John
Yes.
chapter 20, verse 30.
Okay. Now Jesus did many other signs in the presence of the disciples, which are not written in this book, but these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name.
Yeah, so there's probably a lot that was not recorded,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
And then now they're saying that there's certain books were taken out.
Yeah,
So we have
the
to.
book of Enoch.
That's what they say.
Okay, so I'd like to...
More about that later. Praise be to God.
Yes, praise be to God. Okay, so we are going to continue with Reverend Moon's Divine Principle. It is one of his 8 great textbooks, and we'll continue with The Fall of Man, section 5.2, Freedom and the Human Fall.
Okay. To summarize, freedom cannot exist outside the principle. Freedom is accompanied by the responsibility laid out in the principle, and freedom pursues accomplishments that bring joy to God. Free actions generated by free will bring about only good results. Therefore, it cannot be that freedom caused the human fall. It is written, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. This freedom is the freedom of the original mind. As long as Adam and Eve were bound by God's warning not to eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, they should have kept this commandment by their free will and without God's intervention. Certainly, the freedom of the original mind, which is inherently responsible and seeks the good, was prompting them to obey it. When Eve was about to deviate from the principle, the freedom of her original mind aroused fear and foreboding in her in an attempt to prevent her from deviating. Ever since the fall, this freedom of the original mind has been working to bring people back to God. Working in this way, freedom could not possibly have caused the human beings to fall. Rather, the human fall was caused by the stronger power of unprincipled love, which overwhelmed the freedom of the original mind. In truth, human beings lost their freedom as a result of the fall. Yet even fallen people possess intact a seed of their original nature which seeks freedom, and this makes it possible for God to carry out the providence to restore it. With the progress of history, people have been ever more zealously aspiring for freedom, even at the cost of their lives. This is evidence that we are in the process of restoring our freedom, long lost due to Satan. The purpose of our search for freedom is to facilitate the accomplishment of our God-given responsibility, which is essential for fulfilling our purpose of creation.
Yes, and that's what it's happening now. With these mandates, people are walking out of 6-figure salary jobs, and they're just doing it because they want to be free. You know, and use their original mind, as Reverend said in Divine Principle.
Right. It's arousing the original mind,
Yeah.
which God can touch. It's still that bit, that one piece of the original mind that God can touch and influence. So
That's
praise
right.
be to God. God is working, God is moving, and God wins.
That's right. Amen. Okay, so I'd like to continue with Jim Caviezel's excellent speech entitled "The Storm is Upon Us." Mm-hmm. So as he continues, he's saying Reagan's speech, but he's like tweaking it. So Reagan said, "There is not a man alive who would carelessly send another person's son to war. And that is a real issue with this campaign that makes all the other problems I discussed academic, unless we realize that we are in a war that we must be won. Those of us who would trade our freedoms for the soup kitchens of the welfare state have told us that they have a utopian solution of peace without victory. They call them policy accommodations. And they say, if we only avoid any direct confrontation with this enemy, he'll forget his evil ways and learn to love us." Never happened.
Right.
All of those who oppose them are indicted as warmongers. They say we offer simple answers to complex problems, and yet they have the nerve to call it choice. Well, perhaps there's a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but a simple one. If you and I would have the courage to tell our elected officials that we want our national policy based on what we know in our hearts what is morally right. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot but buy our security of one nation under God. Our freedoms, priced from the threat of the devil any longer by committing an act of immorality so great, saying to millions and millions of little children now caught behind the iron curtain of sex trafficking and abortion, He's doing the movie The Sound of Freedom.
Yes.
It's going to come out soon.
Yeah.
Give up your dreams or our own skin for our own skins. We're just too willing to make a deal with your slave masters. And Alexander Hamilton said that any nation which prefer to disgrace the danger is prepared for a master and deserves one. Now let's set the record straight. There's no argument over the choice between peace and war, but there's only one guaranteed way you can have peace, and you can have it in the next second: surrender. Admittedly, there's a risk in any force which we follow other than this, but every lesson in history tells us that the greater risk lies in appeasement, and this is the specter our well-meaning Christian liberal friends refuse to face. Our priests, he's Catholic, our priests, our pastors, and now sadly, even our Pope. This policy of accommodation is appeasement, and it gives us no choice between peace and war, only between fight and surrender. If we continue to accommodate, continue to back and retreat, eventually we will have to face the final demand, the final ultimatum, and what then? When Satan has told us his own, he knows what our answer is going to be. He has told them that we are retreating under the pressure of his Cold War, and someday, when the time is right to deliver his final ultimatum, our surrender will be voluntary, because you see, by then we will have been so weakened from within, spiritually, morally, economically. He believes this because from our side, he's heard voices pleading for peace at any price, or better read than dead, as one commentator put it. He'd rather live on his knees with his mask on than die on his feet. And therein lies the road to war, because these voices don't speak for the rest of us. You and I know it, and do not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery. If nothing in life is worth dying for, when did this begin? Just in the face of this enemy? Or should Moses have told the children of Israel to live in slavery under the Pharaohs? Should Christ have refused the cross? Should the patriots of Concord Bridge have thrown down their guns and refused to fire the shot heard around the world? The martyrs of history were not fools, and our beloved dead who gave their lives to stop the advance of the Nazis did not die in vain. Wherein then lies the road to peace, you say? Well, it's a simple answer after all. You and I have the courage to say there is a price we will not pay. There is a point where evil must not advance. And this goes for our beautiful, beloved Constitution as well, just barely hanging on there by a lifeline. Do we even believe in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? You know there's no coincidence why it's in that order. Because without your life, you have no liberty. Without your life, you have no happiness. That all men are created equal, ladies and gentlemen, not born equal, created. Winston Churchill said, the destiny of a man is not measured by internal material computations. When great forces are on the move throughout the world, we learn we are spirits, not animals. And he said there is something going on in time and space, and beyond time and space, which whether we like it or not spells duty. My fellow Americans, you and I have a rendezvous with destiny. That's a famous quote by Reagan. We will preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or will sentence them to take the last step to 1,000 years of darkness. We are at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind, and has a long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said, if we lose this war, and in so doing lose this great way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those of us that had the most to lose did the least to prevent it from happening. Well, I think it's high time we ask ourselves if we still even know the freedoms that were intended for us by our founding fathers. Every generation of American needs to know that freedom exists not to do what you like, but having the right to do what you ought. Expressing the freedom and divine principles, same thing. Yeah. My fellow Christians, warriors, set yourselves apart from this corrupt generation. Be saints. We weren't made to fit in. We were born to stand out. And that is a freedom that I wish for you. Freedom from sin, freedom from our weaknesses, freedom from the slavery that sin makes out of all of us. That is a freedom that is worth dying for. Kind of reminds me of the words of Mel Gibson when he received the award for his film Braveheart, when he said to his ragtag army, and I say to you tonight, I see before me a whole army of my countrymen here in defiance of tyranny. You've come to fight as free men, and free men you are. What will you do without freedom? Will you fight? One says, no, we'll run and we'll live. Fight, you may die, run and you'll live. For at least a while, and dying in your beds many years from now, would you have been willing to trade all the years from this day to so that you have one chance, just one chance to come back here and tell your enemies that you can take our lives, but you cannot take our freedom. Every man dies, not every one man truly lives. You, and you, he says, and freedom, and by God we must live, and with the Holy Spirit as your shield and Christ as your sword. May you join St. Michael and all the angels in defending God. Send Lucifer and his henchmen back to hell where they belong. We are heading into the storm of all storms. Yes, the storm is upon us, but without Jesus, with Jesus as our rudder. In the words of Reagan, evil is powerless if the good are unafraid.
Yeah, we do nothing. I think people don't think it would get to this
Yeah.
part, right?
Well,
There's so much, just like so much
it's now hitting the fan. It's now, I mean, people are rising up in New York City every day.
Yeah.
Even in Iran, I saw, well, Iran's been under tyranny for a while now, but I saw against the mandates, they are also rising up.
There's an underground Christian movement in
Yes.
the Middle East, and so everything is just about to explode in a good way. In a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. So I think that,
People getting their freedom.
yeah, we have to know that good things are happening, even though it looks pretty bad right now. I don't know about you, but I was very heartened by what happened in Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia, and they say also New Jersey. There's some runoffs. They're doing
Well, I don't know if New Jersey might be like here, but anyway, we're in California.
victories.
But what the Republicans did in New Jersey was excellent. They had hundreds of lawyers, and then they had maybe 3,000 poll watchers, and they were all united for winning those Republican candidates in every single sector.
Fair election.
Which didn't happen here. And if someone went to the polls and they had a problem, they would just call the lawyer. And that's the way
you already voted, man.
That's the way you do it.
Yeah,
because Republicans weren't
organized.
United in California, they were not, and they're a poor excuse. And so this state has a long way to go. However,
there's a plan, there's a way already that has been done in Virginia. So
so we have, just like in Arizona for the forensic audit, that's an example to other states as well. And I heard Wisconsin is actually doing a lot. In my opinion, the last 2016 election, Wisconsin was the one who turned it, because I don't know if you remember this, but when Wisconsin was won for Donald Trump, the Democratic side was completely silent.
Stunned, huh?
You heard crickets.
Stunned. They didn't pay enough money.
It was great.
They didn't switch enough votes.
Yeah. So, but we all have to do our part. But I think prayer and action and unity, we can't fight amongst each other. Like Larry Elder, he was a great candidate here. And he didn't want to go and debate other Republicans. He said, no, I don't want to do that. I want to debate Gavin Newsom.
Right.
Was he brave enough to debate him? Hell no. He didn't even show up. Gavin Newsom didn't show up, and they blamed.
Now he's missing in action, my husband said.
He saw it
on the news. He said,
I wonder where he is.
Family issues or something.
Oh, I wonder where he is.
I said, really?
I think he's a criminal. Anyway, there's a lot here, and we'll see what meets the eye. So,
and people, we talk to each other.
Yes.
And so that's helping also a lot.
Yeah. So it's through the grapevine and whatever. Anyway, hold the line, do your part, pray and act, and know that there are other patriots doing the same. Never give in. Never, ever give in. If you don't want to receive the vax, you should not. So anyway, God bless. We'll see you next time.
Take care.
Okay. Wait.